Hellgrammite.
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 I always used to say Hellgrammite.
Hellgrammite.
Oh my goodness. Look at what they turn into. They start like that, turn into a big flying thing. Man, maybe I'll have to make the adult version sometime. But for this week's bait, we're doing a Hellgrammite. At first glance, you might think this is gonna be just an easy larva bait, you know? But those legs, those are gonna be something. This is definitely gonna be the most complicated soft plastic bait I've ever made so far. I plan on doing kind of a sophisticated mold for the body of this bait. And then I'm just gonna have the head as the jig, the hard jig at the front. I'm up for the challenge though. This could end up being a really good bait. Time for some fun facts about Hellgrammites. So they start out in the larva stage as the Hellgrammite, and then that's its aquatic life. So, okay, I need to read more before I start talking to you guys. So the Dobson fly, I think that's how you say it, is the adult version of the Hellgrammite. And the Hellgrammite is the larva stage, and that's what I'm making right now. The Dobson fly can have a wingspan of 18 centimeters. That's pretty big. The Hellgrammites hatch from eggs. They grow to a length of 2 to 3 inches long. They have a powerful set of pinching mandibles. It's got 6 legs, but the remainder of its body is lined with 6 to 8 parts of thick filaments that act as gills for breathing underwater. They live under logs, rocks, debris. They can live in fast currents. They hunt and feed on other microinvertebrates. So that's what they are too. So when they're done being a Hellgrammite, they burrow into the mud or they find shelter, and then they go into the pupal stage, like a butterfly, like a caterpillar will, turning into a butterfly. They'll go through the metamorphosis process and they'll turn into that Dobbin's fly. There's bait shops that catch them and sell them for live bait. I don't even know if there are Hellgrammites in Iowa. I haven't looked for them, but I've never found them either, so might be something new to show the fish with this bait around here. Interesting insect. So this is the size jig head I'm going to be using for the Hellgrammite. I think that's 1/8 ounce. That's about where the hook's going to come out, on the butt or on the bottom or on the back. What am I saying? So I still need to cut the head off, and this is going to be molded separately, and it's just going to encase this jig head in resin, and that's going to be the jig head for this bait. Before I get to that, I'm going to carve this whole thing as one piece so it's all symmetrical and the soft plastic flows nicely into the jig head. I'm going to get to work on that. From what I can see, the Hellgrammites, they have pretty flat tops. The backs of them are pretty flat. Same with the bottoms. That's where I'm at after just carving with a knife. I think I'm gonna call that good. I'm gonna clean this up with a file and some sandpaper, and then maybe put some more details into it. So I've got it smoothed out pretty well, but now I'm gonna go for putting some of the lines and details into the body. We've got like these lateral lines that come down on each side, and then there's some really subtle lines just between each segment right there. Some up here, and the detail on the head. So that's what I'm going to do now. In the pictures, these look pretty jagged and not super symmetrical. So I'm not going to worry about making these lines perfect. So all of these lines are scored, and I'm actually going to be taking material off of the insides of these lines because I want to keep the look of this bait kind of flat. I think if I took material off of the outsides, it would really round it off and make it look too cylindrical. So I just drilled all them holes on the side, and now for the legs, I've got these things, and what they're called are a nano brush microfiber applicator, and they're really thin, but they're not too thin. I think they're gonna work good. I gotta scrape all of the bristles off the ends. I think I'm just gonna install them all like that, and then once I got them all installed, I'll go along with scissors and just cut them to the right length. There's all the legs, minus the two that I'm just going to glue to the back here. Not too shabby. I got some bristles to take off here still, but I have no idea if this is going to work. But it looks kind of cool. So I just cut the head off. Now I'm going to actually glue all of these arms in. Got to really be careful to make all of these straight too. I want them all lined up in a flat line. That way when I put it in the mold, all of these limbs will be on the same plane. There's all the legs. That looks pretty cool. What I need to do next is give this bait a coat of polyurethane. Give everything a coat of polyurethane. Wait for that to dry and then mold it. These soft plastic baits, there can be a lot less steps to get them done, but they're still pretty complicated. I hope this actually works. What I plan on doing is making an injection mold where the plastic will actually be injected into this body and then come out every single leg that I just put on there. I don't know if that's asking too much from these tiny little thin legs where the plastic will stay hot enough to actually travel through and make it to the end. Off of each one of these legs, I plan for there to be a sprue, a place for a tiny channel for the hot plastic to make its way out of. And that way all the air is pushed out of the mold and this just turns into a piece of soft plastic. But yeah, that might be asking too much. We'll see. I'm gonna still try. Now for the jig head part of this bait, I could start making the mold for it right now. It doesn't need to be super detailed or clean, it's just going to be a jig head. And it's just going to look like this. I got the two pinchers out there in the front and just a little bit of detail on the top of the head. But this is going to be made out of resin, and the resin's just going to encase this lead jig head. So I needed it just big enough to encase this. You want that line that comes in contact with the piece to be super clean. That reduces the seam line on the finished pieces that you mold. So this side of the mold is going to be what I put the whole jig head into. I'm going to need it to be thick enough to where the slot that I cut in this side of the mold supports this jig head. I mean, it's not going to need to be that thick, but got to keep that in mind. Absolutely no reason to pull a vacuum on this silicone. This is just a little jig head, and there's not going to be any bubbles on the surface of it once the silicone's poured. I still pour it slow though to get a nice thin stream going. It's really hard for the bubbles not to pop when you do that. So 12 hours from now I can flip that and mold the other half. So this is where it's going to get a little bit more complicated. I'm going to need to take the body of this Hellgrammite, attach this injection port to it that I made. It's just a little L-shaped cylinder with a thing that comes off of it that's going to attach where the head goes. And then for each one of these legs, I'm going to attach some monofilament fishing line to the ends. Those are going to come out of the sides of the mold. But I think I'm going to use some 40 or 60 pound test monofilament actually. I don't have any right now, I got to go pick some up. Okay, I didn't go to the store because I remembered I got this stuff last week for the angler fish and this little dangly thing. This stuff will work perfect, it's a good diameter. So I'm going to attach this 80 pound nylon coated wire, steel-on is what they call it, to the ends of every single leg, and enough so it comes out of the mold. 11 on each side. This is difficult, gluing these tiny ends together. The super glue doesn't want to set up and hold. You gotta hold it there forever. So I'm having to just get some super glue on there, get it to where it just barely holds, and then I spray it with the accelerator. But that's easier said than done. I don't know if I'd be able to do this without the accelerator. There is one side done. I'm gonna do the other. Ended up not being that bad once I got in a rhythm. There. That was kind of tedious. So now I just got to get this lined up, trim all of these wires so they're just right on the edge of the mold box, make all of the seams really nice, and then ready to pour. There's always adjustments I can make to the mold after I mold the first half, so I'm not too worried about it. But oh my goodness, is this a lot to make sure is right. It's almost like the gluing was pointless now. I'm kind of just setting these in where they need to be so they'll stay. I still got to make keys for this too. Alright, I'll get back to you when this mold's ready. So there's the inside of the mold. That's what I'm going to pour silicone over. There's the jig head mold. When I was molding it, I forgot to put some keys into the clay. So now I'm just going to drill out some holes in the silicone to make the keys before I pour the next half. Much easier to cut some keys instead of drill them. That's all you need. This thing is where I'm going to pour the resin into to make the jig head. I'm going to cover this mold in some mold release now. There, I'm going to wait for the mold release to dry, and then I can pour the silicone. That just needs to cure, and then that one will be done. Once this one cures, there's probably a bunch of finagling and cutting and adjusting I need to do to it, but I plan on coming back out here tonight and finishing the soft plastic mold up. That silicone only takes 8 hours to cure, so like 9 o'clock tonight I'll finish it. Then I'll be able to mold some and fish with them tomorrow. That soft plastic mold, that was a difficult mold. I'm still not 100% sure it's going to turn out as a usable mold, but I'll do what I can. I hate it when I do all that work and I'm not sure about it, you know. It's annoying. Now I gotta wait 8 hours. Now I have to wait 8 hours and see if it's good or not. It's kind of annoying. It would be awesome if it turned out good though. It'd be very cool. Wow, there's a lot of cleaning up to do on the body. Whole bunch of clay stuck to it. I should have put some mold release on it. Dang it. Oh well. Looks like the legs didn't turn out too bad though. There's minimal cleanup I have to do. Some silicone got through, but it's going to be easy to clean that up. Not bad. Alright. I think it's ready. Just going to cover it in mold release. Pour the other half. There were some legs that were pretty finicky. I had to glue them back down. Keep seeing stuff I want to cut off. So I'm actually, I think to make this easier, I'm taking out all of these little channels that come off of each leg, and then I'm going to pour the silicone. I took out all of the sprues on the ends of every leg because they just weren't, I put this mold box over it and they would be in the way and they just weren't cooperating, so I thought it's going to be easier just to take them all out, and then I'll pour this other half of the mold, and then I'll go back and I'll cut off all of the excess, and instead of just having these in there to mold, I'll just cut them off in the second piece. But seeing how this half turned out, it's looking alright. This is looking doable. I still don't know if the injection is going to work, but that side of the mold definitely worked. That'd be pretty cool if there was a, you know, like the do-it molds, the aluminum ones that you can buy and inject yourself. If there was a Hellgrammite one of those. I wonder if a lot of people would buy that or not. Well, tomorrow, I guess, is the day of judgment for this bait. We'll see if it works. Nothing else to say. We're just going to see if it works tomorrow. Just got to trim all this up now. Every single one of these bumps, I got to take off. Not bad. There's the jig mold. I gotta cut a slot in this that'll accept the jig hook. That'll be pretty easy. Okay, I think that mold's ready to go too. Just got to start pouring. This is black dye for the resin jig head. So I'm going to mix this up, and I'm going to pour some in this mold before I put the second half on, just to make sure I'm getting every spot. And then I'm going to put the second half on and finish the pour. Hope I put enough dye in here to where it's black enough to cover up the jig head. Didn't really think this through. I'll just put this on there. There we go. Time to do this one. So I think I'm just going to inject this mold and just see how it turns out. See what legs don't form, and then see which ones do, and then from there I'll know what to cut off, or at least I'll know how much more I need to cut off to get the legs to actually inject. I don't know. It might be a complete fail and none of them inject, and it's just a larva bait. We'll see. Okay, 20 more seconds and I'm gonna go for the first injection. Seems to be coming out this end pretty hard. It's probably not good. Almost. Almost. It's missing those legs. These legs are fine, really. Actually, I could probably just trim this side to the length that this side is, and nobody would ever know except all of you watching. Oh, and I missed these up here. But they're, you know, it's not bad. That really isn't bad. Oh, there's a bubble right there. Who knows, all the problems might go away if I just cast another because the mold's hot now. Let's do another. Jig head turned out alright. Now I just need to get a good soft plastic piece. And this will be a good bait. I think I'm going to go with like little, just light pressure, holding it together this time. Well, it took three or four attempts, but I was able to get a good cast, and I think I'm able to replicate it. I still have to cut the flashing off the legs, but they all filled out, and it looks good. I'll be able to use that. There it is, the finished Hellgrammite. I'll get this tied on and see if we can catch something. So first of all, we're gonna go to a lake because it's been flooding around here lately and all the creeks and rivers are just mud right now. And just in order to show the action, we're gonna go to a lake that has some clear water and try to catch some fish at a lake with a Hellgrammite. Oh my. Well, the Hellgrammites, they work just as you would expect. They're just kind of a finesse bait that you gotta twitch along. I have a lot of confidence in them. I think they're gonna catch fish. They work good. We're gonna keep fishing. I'll have that video posted a few days from now. I'm pretty happy about this bait. Got the legs to mold. I just got everything to mold it. It worked out pretty good. Couldn't really ask for more. On to the next bait.